We're deep in fiberglass for this one. Our first layer of cloth has been saturated in epoxy, covering a majority of the hull. The sun is setting earlier and earlier, and the glass was still too wet to tarp, so we carefully brought Little Red inside for the night.
All right, we had to move the dinghy into the garage because as soon as we started fiberglassing, all these big clouds came in and it looked all dark and ominous and gross, so had to move it in here. But the glass, the layup went really well. It came out great, nice and smooth. I just got a cut along my tape line so I can pull this off. I already started a little bit here and it's coming off nicely. Just take the razor blade and just cut along, and then it comes right off. Then you can clean it up a little bit and be ready to do the next layer of glass.
Garrett's dad has gotten used to Garrett's boat addiction. His garage has always been a workshop first. A man of many projects, the proverbial apple has not fallen far from this tree. Our Tenderly will be engulfed in fiberglass to be durable enough to support Big Red in any climate she sails in. Currently in Mexico, Rediviva waits patiently. Back outside under the oleander, Garrett has cleaned the edges and we're ready to glass some more.
Feeling a little under the weather today. I usually, once we transition, I kind of forget about this when we're on the boat because, and being in Mexico, it's pretty much the same weather all the time. It just goes from hot to hotter. But being here for the transition into fall, I've got my little seasonal cold, seasonal change. We're moving on to the next 2 panels for fiberglassing the bottom. So we're gonna lay out port and starboard and get those 2 hopefully glued today. The fog has taken a while to burn off, but it has burned off by the time we're getting to this. So hopefully by the end of today, the entire outside of the dinghy will be fiberglassed. And after this round of fiberglassing, we will still do one more. It's gonna be one more layer just on the bottom. We got our glass out. And Garrett got this all sanded and prepped yesterday. Man, it is just looking sharp. Oh, and then also there will be a full strip, at least 1 layer, maybe even 2. And worth mentioning, there will be a skeg, and also you can see those 2 and these 2 will eventually be cut out, and this will be where the dagger board sits for the sail kit for this.
We can sail it, row it, or slap a small outboard on it.
Got that? Thank you.
Once we're ready to bring her down to Mexico and join Rediviva, we'll road trip 1,000 miles of coastline, exploring beaches and spearfishing along the way.
I don't think we're gonna really need to cut this one.
Just glass it as is and then trim it.
This 6-ounce cloth will preserve and protect Little Red on any shore we dig her bow into.
You have very short patience for epoxy.
What are you talking about?
You run out of patience.
I'm made of patience. So as far as things are right now, this is actually all the fiberglass that the plans call for on the outside. So if we were sticking to the plans, we'd actually be done glassing completely on the outside. But yeah, I'm excessive and like to overbuild everything. So we're gonna do, so we came down to the first like lap joint here, and now we're gonna lay a full side panel to cover the entire rest of the hull, and we're gonna overlap that one up to the first seam where it's kind of like a hard seam. The edge of the fiberglass is going to be right on that line, so it'll be nice visually. There'll already be a hard point there, so it'll flow really nicely, look really nice. So that's going to come up to there, and then I'm going to be even more excessive, and then I'm going to put one more layer on the bottom, and that will probably, I don't know, I'll either end it on this seam or just
overlap it again.
Come down to where this was before. We'll see. That'll be two full layers on the bottom, one layer on the sides, and then we'll do the glassing on the inside too, which the plans call for. And I'll probably do the full inside.
Even though it calls for half.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you just built a mold and now you're fiberglassing your mold.
Yeah.
And you're also gonna do the transom, right?
Yep.
Which
do the full transom.
Which isn't in the plans either.
Nope.
Deviating from the plans only to make her tough for cruising. We have the materials and the time to fully wrap the hull, making it impervious to the sea she'll float in.
Epoxy is just kind of tacked up enough right now that it's a little pliable, but it's kind of like perfect timing right now to just slice this excess off at the tape line right here. You can wait till it's dry. That's what I did on the first layer, but it's just super easy when it's kind of like just gelled over like this. It slices off really clean. Then we'll be ready to move over to the other side. All right, that's all there is to it. Came out pretty nice.
Feeling a little under the weather. I think Garrett has caught what I have, but we are still motivated to finish fiberglassing the outside of the dinghy today. So we already have the panel cut for the next sheet, and all that's left to do is lay it on here and lay down some epoxy.
Trying something a little different on this side, we've coated the lapstrake seams before laying the cloth down, hoping it'll stick quicker and tighter. It's hard to say if there was a difference. This side did go faster, but that could also be because it's our second side. The first time always takes a little longer. Working it in, air bubble free, and snug against the hull is a meticulous job I enjoy, and it's easy to get nitpicky.
You know, once we get it close, I'm sure we could just like let it sit for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then come back when it's actually sticky.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fall is here. About ready to cut the final piece on the bottom, besides the little strip bits of cloth that we'll do up here in the bow
and the transom. But this is our last big piece.
Oh gosh.
Oh! Yeah, Garrett got all the sanding done while it was still sunny. And now that we're about ready to fiberglass, the fog is rolling in. Our work days are getting shorter on the central coast of California. So after we glass this up and over, just gonna kind of sand, feather it.
We'll sand it and then use total fair and just kind of fair it out.
Kind of feather it into the transom panel. Total Fair is an epoxy putty that'll even out any transitions or imperfections left after fiberglassing, giving us a smooth hull ready for finish paint. Now onto the final pieces of exterior glass. The transom will receive a reinforcing strip, adding strength to this important joint. And the stem, which is susceptible to beating, will get 3 layers, really fortifying the bow. One last piece.
Really thought about this much, so I'm just going to completely wing it. Have extra epoxy and I don't want to waste it. And so this is going to be a just completely shoot from the hip kind of situation. About from here up to this point. Thank you.
Garrett's rigged away to tent the dinghy overnight to cure. The sun is low behind the fence, and the marine layer creeps in the evening and lingers in the morning, so we make the most of the sunny hours we have. There's a slowness that begins this time of year, even as we hastily lay glass. Garrett's gonna run out of the epoxy he's already made and probably call it quits for today. Our work days are getting shorter and shorter.
Okay, I'm just setting up to do the last bit of glassing, and of course the wind is kicking up now and the fog is rolling in. I can't win with the fiberglassing lately, but anyway, we're gonna try to knock it out. So I'm just doing a little bit more glass. I laid in these layers of the fiberglass tape yesterday to kind of overlap this joint, just to strengthen this whole thing up. The plans don't call for any fiberglass on the transom at all. The plans call to just tape it off and like cut it at that intersection, which again I'm sure works fine, but I just want to make this whole unit like super strong, you know, because again, being a cruising dinghy, you end up going through a bunch more ridiculous stuff than you do with a normal dinghy, and sometimes you can't really do anything about it. You just kind of find yourself in a really sketchy situation. And so just like with the mothership, I want it to be overbuilt, like really overbuilt, just in case when you find yourself in that crazy situation. I want it to be overbuilt for that. I'm gonna just do a few more layers on these corners, since that's where all the jagged laps are. It's just gonna be easier to do it in a few little pieces like that. And then once I get all of that wrapped, then I'll probably do another kind of layer to, again, just make this whole connection point super strong. I finished the bow yesterday, so that's got 3 layers of glass on it now. Good for the potential impact zone on the bow, and also since this kind of sharp V comes pretty deep and it kind of slopes downward like that. When you're coming to shore with the dinghy, I mean, this is going to dig into the shore first, so I want to make sure that's nice and strong. It's got plenty of abrasion resistance, so it should be good there. And at that point, I'll probably roll another coat of resin on the whole thing. I'll clean it, maybe do a light sanding, roll a full coat of resin, light sand, and then I'll go around wherever I need to with the Total Fair and just kind of smear some of that on here and there, and then I'll do like kind of a final fairing sanding, and then I'll start rolling on the primer that Tollboat sent us. It's an epoxy primer, so I'll probably just get the whole thing in prime and then flip it back over and then start doing all the glass work on the inside. All right, side's done, so just gonna, same thing on the other side. Okay, this is gonna be the last couple pieces on the transom. Just 2 more strips of the 6-inch tape, just to bring this corner fiberglass a little bit further down, just strengthen everything up a little bit more. But this should be the last bit of glass that I'm doing, I think, on the whole exterior, and then I'll move on to just fairing, sanding, and priming. All right, let that kick, and then I can start the long, horrible process of sanding and fairing, and it's gonna be itchy. I'm gonna go get some coveralls before I start that.
Thanks for watching. Up next, the itchy stuff, before we flip the dinghy upright and repeat the process. See you then.